Okay, so on your quiz for the evaluating the expression and writing the results, this will also give you a reminder that you have to show your work. Okay, so you can't just tell me the final answer for A, you got to show me how you got there. So in order to arrive at 45, we're going to split this into, you can start here, I to the 44th times I is I to the 45th. Or if you want to start at this step, you can. So you always want to rewrite things in terms of I squared because you can replace that with -1. Okay, so I squared to the 22nd, we're going to plug in -1 there. So -1 to the 22nd times I is going to give you 1 times I or I. Okay, so you'll get a point for having the correct answer, but it's also a point for the work, so make sure you have that in there. All right, and then here we have 4 plus 4I. We're going to multiply by the conjugate. So when I FOIL on the bottom, I get 16 minus 16I squared. I'm going to plug in a -1, which is going to give me 32. Okay, and then from there, we're going to distribute. So this would be 64 plus 64I. When that happens, not 3. When that happens, you're going to divide. So 64 divided by 32 plus 64 divided by 32I. And that's how you're going to get the 2 plus 2I. All right, now this one, you are going to simplify by taking the negatives out of the radical first. You can also simplify I root 12 if you want to, or you can simplify it at a later time. It honestly does not matter. Okay, if you keep it like this, when you FOIL, you are going to get 42 minus 21I root 3 plus 2I root 12 minus I squared root 3 times root 12 will be 36. Okay, so here you are going to have to simplify. This is going to be 2 root 3 because 4 times 3 is 12. Okay, so this becomes, you are multiplying this by 2I, so it's 4I root 3. You will end up combining those together. And then here, we know this is -1. The square root of 36 is 6. So minus -6 is really going to be plus 6. So we're going to add those together. And that's how you're going to get 48. -21 plus 4 is -17. And then it'll be I root 3. Okay, so you can combine your like terms there. Okay, 7 throws people off, but it's a quadratic function. Anytime you have a quadratic, if you can't factor, you're going to use the formula. Okay, so x equals, and if you want, you can divide everything first. What goes into all of these? 2. So if you divide everything by 2, okay, then with the quadratic formula, you can do 2x squared minus 3x plus 11 equals 0. That's going to give you your A, your B, and your C. And then you have the opposite of B, plus or minus B squared minus 4AC. Okay, all divided by 2A. So here, 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times 11, you have 9 minus 88 inside the radical, so 3 plus or minus -√79 divided by 4, and then it says to write this in the form a plus bi, so you can either keep your I in front of the radical and write your final answer like this, or if you want your I behind the radical, that would be fine too. Okay, like that. Okay, and then for 8, it's a polynomial p of degree 3 with integer coefficients that has these zeros. So 2 minus 5i is a 0, 2 plus 5i is a 0. So this is called p of x, so we want that with it. factor form is going to be x minus whatever your 0 is. Okay, so this is x minus 2 minus 5i and x minus 2 plus 5i. From there, we distribute. So x minus 2 plus 5i, x minus 2 minus 5i, and then we regroup so that we can FOIL. So this would be x minus 2 squared minus 25i squared, and then we can FOIL this out. So this would be x squared minus 4x plus 4 minus 25 times negative 1, which is plus 25. Okay, and then we still have that x minus 3 here. So this is x minus 3 times x squared minus 4x plus 29. And then when we distribute, I like to distribute the x to everything first. X cubed minus 4x squared plus 29x. And I like to line these up. Plus 12x minus, and then 20 times 3 is 60, and 27. We got negative 87 there. So p of x is equal to x cubed minus 7x squared plus 41x minus 87. Yes. Okay, and then for 10, this says that is on the no calculator portion. So we just have to know how to find those from the equation. So for the vertical asymptotes here, you're going to find the zeros of the denominator. So x minus 2, we're going to set that equal to 0 and solve. You can simply say that you found the zeros of the denominator. And you can simply say this for this one too, but for this we did have to do a little more. You can also say you set the denominator equal to 0 and solve by factoring, because for that one you did have to factor each one. Okay, so when you are factoring this, you start with 2x and x, has to multiply to 4, but add to negative 9. So if you do minus 1 and then minus 4, you'll get negative 8 minus 1. That will add to negative 9. Set each one equal to 0. That's how you're going to get the 1/2 and the positive 4. Okay, when you are doing the horizontal, you have to say something about comparing the degrees. That is specifically what I'm going to look for in your explanation. Okay, that to find the horizontal, you compare the degrees of the numerator and denominator. It's fine if you say here, since the degrees of the numerator and denominator are equal, the horizontal asymptote is formed by dividing the leading coefficient of the numerator by the leading coefficient of the denominator. Okay, and then for b, since the degree of the numerator is less than the degree of the denominator, the horizontal asymptote is going to be y is equal to 0.